Hello, my name is Lexi Davis. I'm a self-discovery coach, a yoga and meditation instructor, a love enthusiast, and a really playful human being. I serve people through my business, Alive to Enjoy, and this is Heart Snuggles, a holistic wellness podcast where I invite guests to drop into their heart space through authentic conversations and compassionate intentions, all in mini cuddly episodes, hoping that you connect to your truth in the most authentic version of yourself. I hope you enjoy. Welcome everyone to Heart Snuggles. We hope you're having a lovely day today. And I brought on my old boss and just amazing human being that I miss dearly from Australia. So Dee, just go ahead and give yourself a little intro.
I will. Thanks, Lexi. And for all your audience, they're probably not used to the Aussie accent, so I'll try and speak slowly. Okay, so yes, met beautiful Lexi a few years ago now. And when you were traveling and did quite a bit of work for me, which was beautiful. I'm a couples psychologist in the main formally, and I actually go under the banner of couples master coach because I am a master life coach as well. And over the years, I've tallied up over 4,700 couples now. And over 30 years, I think it's an okay thing to say I'm a couples master coach. So that's what I do. I work with couples in conflict, couples in crisis, day in, day out. Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely consider you a master. You're so good at so good at assisting in such a beautiful way too, and seeing the scenario and putting all the pieces together for everyone. So I love what you do.
Thank you for that.
Yes. And the question of the podcast is, what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
The last random act of random.
If you can't think of a random one, it could just be a non-random, but
I had lots of acts of kindness done for me. A lot of them are thank yous. Do they count?
Sure, we can go with that, yeah.
Well, I currently have a 19-year-old granddaughter who's in between school and uni coming, and she does my garden. She manages some of my technology. She creates new Canva designs. So they're not exactly random, but they're great acts of kindness.
That's beautiful. And it's so nice.
For both of us, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so nice. Mm.
Yeah.
So let's start with how you got into this work in this field.
Well, that's interesting because I was a teacher for 15 years. And during that time, I used to see kids come to school in misery and or behave badly. And I would check in and find out that mum and dad weren't happy. They were fighting, they were miserable, it was awful. So I became interested and started parent-teacher interviews back in the early days of the late 1960s, early 70s, where parents would come along, not to talk about the kids' academics and performance like today. They would come and talk about the family dynamics. And I somehow, with no training, was, whatever you're brave enough, courageous enough to step in and say, well, this child's poor little thing, whatever's going on. And I started helping parents. Anyway, out of that, I then decided to get initially into child psychology, but that didn't work. I couldn't get in because they cancelled the course. So I went into general psychology. I became a generalist psychologist when I was 40. And then I was seeing people for depression and anxiety and grief a lot of the time and a lot of relationship issues and breakups. And I would bring the other partner in with no special training because there wasn't any back then. And I would seem to be able to fix it and repair it. And then the depression and the anxiety would either reduce significantly or even disappear. So then I decided to specialise. I just saw more and more couples, then I specialised just in couples. So now I only, for many, many, many years, only see couples.
That's so cool. It's just been a natural gift inside of you.
Maybe, yes, maybe. You were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
It's that the messages come through, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's that's like one of the reasons I like doing my work too, is like the couples play such a big relationship, parenting plays such a big relationship in everyone's lives, and it affects your children. Like, this is how we're shaped as in our childhood. So having good dynamics in the household is really key, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, you're so right. And there's a guy called Harvey Mackay, and he said so many years ago that the quality of our lives are determined by, or he says our success in our lives is determined by the quality of our relationships, or the success in our relationships. True. Then there comes along the other maestro, who's Tony Robbins, who says the same thing. And then we get Esther Perel, who's a leading psychotherapist, couple psychotherapist worldwide, and she says the same thing. So it is so true. The quality of our lives are determined by our relationships now. Also, watching our parents' relationships and what we learn from that as their role models, and also what we take away from it in how we relate to the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's
so right. Yeah.
And just like, and you repeat the patterns of your parents unless you want to break them. So it's like really important. Even if you hate the things that they did or whatever, it's like you notice you're doing them yourself. So
yes, exactly. How many people say I've ended up like my dad or like my mother?
And that's why your work is so important. So what do you think what are the main problems you see in relationships with the couples you have?
Well, I see where they push each other away from it. They push offside. They become adversarial is what happens. Accusatory and adversarial. So I have this whole umbrella idea structure that I work with. It's a model called towards and away. So good relationships, strong, sound relationships draw their love like love magnets. They draw their partner and their husband, their wife closer, and can draw them in over the years towards them, even through disagreements and differences of opinions or whatever other crises come up in life. But the typical couples I see, they've pushed their partner away. One has pushed the other away, or they've both been doing it. They're adversarial, they become opponents, or they become withdrawn, disconnected, cold. So it's the towards away dynamic that I'm fixing all the time.
Yes, that is very common. And it's like, it's weird to just go back and forth. Yeah, like one person doing then the other. And it's just like you're in this constant almost like game. It's so.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people have called it a game and others call it a dance. And that's South Australian dance, not dance. But anyway, for whoever's listening. So if it's a dance, it's about the more you do that, the more I do this. The less you do that, the less I'll do that. That's the dance that goes on. Now, that comes from a United States guy in the United States, fabulous, very well-known therapist called Terry Real. He has his whole business is around relational life therapy, RLT, which is fabulous. So that's one of his things I use all the time. So it's all about the more you do whatever you do, whatever it is, the more you make a mess in the kitchen and don't clean it up, the more you drop your clothes on the floor, the less I'm warm to you and the less I want to do anything for you and have a cuddle. Yeah? Or the more you walk away from me and storm out and yell at me, the more I withdraw from you. Then the less warm we are together and the less likely we are to have a cuddle on the couch. So it just goes on and on and on. The more, the less I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I've had both of those dynamics in past relationships. So I'm sure both of us have at some point too. And
yes. It's how serious it gets, It's whether we can do an intervention and pull ourselves up, because the trouble is we're always trying to pull the other one up. We always point the finger and pull the other person up, not say, well, what about I quickly shift? I move my energy around and my words and choose a different tone and attitude. And what if I do look at me? And that's when the magic starts to happen and we get what I call the love magnet back again, where we're drawing our loved one, the one we really care about, towards us again instead of away.
That's so true. So I was saying that I think that's so important, is that radical responsibility, because the blame game point the finger is so hurt. Like, I don't want to use maybe the word toxic, but it's just like it's not productive in any way. And
no,
won't see results if you keep doing
No, you never do. Because if we feel blame, put it that way, it doesn't matter, whoever's on the end of the blame feels accused. Yeah. So I pick up, I go, well, if you feel accused, we have an involuntary response to that we cannot control. You can't ask anybody to control that because it's human survival mechanism. If we feel accused, we get our back up. We become antagonistic. So it's the accusatory part that I coach in stopping and changing and altering. I go just there and go, right, let's change the words, let's change the thoughts behind it, whatever else is going on, because the involuntary response, you can't ask that person that's suffering it to do something about it.
Yeah, I think this is a great thing to talk about, is like that defense mechanism. And so how can you communicate so people don't get defensive?
Yes, that's a good question. I love it. Yes. Well, the thing is, over time, things build up. But in the early stages, when this starts to happen, it's a natural thing to think, I'm uncomfortable and it must be you that created that. So the thing is, the way to do it is to be able to say, without saying I'm uncomfortable and without saying I feel or you made me feel, nah, that all goes. We say, so something's going on for you, to the other person. Can I understand that a bit better? I'm not feeling really good at the moment. It's a very different way from saying you made me feel like. And they might say, well, you left the dishes on the sink for the 100th time. You have to own it if you did. But you might say, well, yeah, but why can't I? I don't want to live with your standards. So then we go, well, how could we work out standards we can both live with? We ask a question. So everything I say, all around asking questions. Yeah. You probably remember that from back in the day.
I do.
You used to do a lot of typing up for me, a lot of stuff for me. You probably saw it come across your little desk a lot.
Mm-hmm. Definitely did. And I think that's beautiful. It's like recognizing when the shift of energies change and naming it. You know, it's just that simple thing. And I can't remember how many times, like, you know, I'm sorry you feel that way, or like, you know, just like not owning any responsibility. It would just drive me crazy.
Yeah, that's right. You see, because that's the name and blame. We need to name it, but in a questioning, nice way, rather than saying I feel. As soon as we say I feel, you're not going to get a good response. And I will put it out there for whoever watches this, that however this gets dispersed, there will be some people who complain about me saying this, all right? Because it used to be, and there's still a whole mainstream of couples therapy there that goes on for a year to 2 years. I never see anybody that long. No couples that long. Oh, well, I won't say no, none, a rare couple. So it depends on what crises they've been through. However, if they say, I feel it used to be the way we did it, you got no resolution. It did not get repaired. It didn't work. So I didn't do it ever, but I saw loads of learnings. I've been in loads of courses that say do it. That's how you do it. No, not at all. That is not, the other person's not listening to that. They're too busy with what's upset them. And they don't want to be blamed. So as soon as we go, I feel this from you, that means you're getting accused and blamed. It's your fault that you're the deficient one, or I'm the deficient one, or we're both deficient, but we're each going, you.
Yeah. And so when you start to help them with that and maybe like set a boundary or set new dynamics, how do you help them integrate that? Because sometimes, I know a lot of people, I know myself, I didn't have boundaries in my life. So I was like, you know, so yeah, how do you help with that?
Yeah. So I draw attention to, if it feels like you're being pushed away, we need to draw the boundary for the other person so they know they're pushing you away, because they may not know. But that doesn't come back by saying I feel. So how you say it will be to say the boundaries setting is, I feel uncomfortable about that. That's what I feel, that's all right. So how can I help you feel better about it? Own your stuff. How can I help you feel better about it? I'm a bit uncomfortable, but what can we do to talk it through? That sets the boundary that says, I'm not liking that, but we don't say I'm not liking it. But we're going back and saying, well, what would make you feel better? I give lots of couples examples with this. You'll have all of them. Every couple does. Don't you worry. Young ones, people together 20 years. I see it all.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What are the boundaries? Well, the first boundary, and I gave the first 3 R words earlier. There's a fourth one, which I didn't put in there at that time, but that's pretty key. It's probably the most important one. That is respect. But what is respect? What is it? Where do we learn it? How do we show it? Do we feel it? You know, I have some very sad stories with couples in IVFs and losing babies and all this stuff. And one or other partner accusing the other person of the pain when they can't see, because there's no respect in there really either way. So where I start with towards and away is I come in with what would respect feel like. And I might say to a couple where there's an interaction like you said before, you know, I don't like you did that, so it's your problem, to come back and say, so I'm hearing you're not feeling respected. Because all blame comes usually from you're not feeling respected. Or am I right if I say that? And often that other partner might go, oh, no, I really respect you. I do respect you. I do. And then they'll get the hang of it thinking, oh, well, actually, that wasn't terribly respectful behaviour. I wasn't thinking. Then we can start doing it. But if they say, yes, I'm not feeling good about this, then you go, okay, let's talk about how we can show each other more care. And then respect comes off the back of it. But it is a learning thing. It's a new way of talking, speaking, thinking. So we get thoughts. Got to get your emotions, because that's the thoughts, the emotions, and deliver it back in a way the other person feels good and you feel good. Because if you don't feel good about what you're saying back, you know it's not good.
Definitely true. And we didn't include the 3 R's for staying emotionally balanced in these times we talked about before the call. So could you mention them?
Oh, did we? Oh, apologies. Yes. So they are the most important. Reacting. There's a sub one of that called responding, but going reacting. Okay. Reassurance. Yeah. And resilience. Now, you could put resilience in around the other way with reassurance, but the 3 come together. So if we react, we are pushing the other person away 99% of the time. So we need to respond instead. I could put that one in as the 4th word, but it's about learning reaction's a problem. Then instead of reacting, reassurance, if that's predominantly the way of interaction you have, you will develop resilience around other little random reactions. We're not too bad with little ones that come along. We're all human. We're going to do them. But we're not, it's different from a massive, ratchet up to a Category 5 cyclone fight.
Yes. So important, because the reaction, triggers both people. When anyone reacts, then you go into that mode as well, and then it just like spirals. So
yes, it does. You either get sucked down into a vortex of misery, or you explode up into a volcano eruption. One or other, not usually anywhere in between.
No, yeah. That's really important too.
And the problem is you can't recover. So that's another R word. So I've got respect and recovery in there as well, and repair. I've got lots of R words. And resentment.
Ooh, let's talk about resentment.
You want to talk about resentment? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, resentment builds, and we as humans hardly notice it until it's so big that we can actually voice it, verbalize it. And it comes out because we think somebody is getting it wrong. The other partner is getting it wrong. They're hurting us somehow, and we maybe don't say anything about it, or the way we say it doesn't bring back any compassion or care or respect. So because of that sense of not being mattering enough, we start resisting and pushing back on that other person. Then it becomes a 2-way, and the other person might say, hey, you all right? What's going on? And you can't even verbalize it. You go, yep, fine, all good. And you know it's not. Or we don't deal with it because we don't know how. So then the partner that says, you're all right, everything all right, babe, then starts to feel rejected because there's bubbles around the other person. So then the other person with the bubble around them feels rejected. Two-way, then retaliation comes in and finishes a loop, and then we get nasties. And then we build what I call grudge. Lots of yucky grudges.
Those are the worst, yeah.
And then we have to wade through them to find a happy place with each other again. So better not to build them.
So how do you help people vocalize things as soon as they start feeling it instead of letting it build up?
Yeah. So by validating what the other person's saying, if they're saying something, even validating what they didn't do, if it's that annoying, to validate it, to acknowledge they didn't do it because they either are not on the same page fastidious-wise, or they're too busy, or they didn't notice, or whatever. To say, I can see you didn't get a chance, and I know that, and then you validate, I know this, don't want to hear this, but how can we work better on this so that it doesn't impact on me as much, or us?
Yeah.
So we're not splitting into sides.
We do that, yeah, we forget that we're like here to work on this together, and when we go into those conflicts or compromises, we instantly become like so separate and so divided instead of being like, let's come together to heal this together.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
I know. And I talk about that to heal together, somebody doesn't want to be told to. They need to be invited to. That's how you do it. It's all invitation. And I say to a lot of people, let's just go with invitation only to be the love magnet. Invite it in. Yeah, it might come in otherwise as well. That's fantastic. But usually tension in couples, we have to be agreeable, say something. So it might be any little thing. It can be, what's the glass on sink, for instance, an irritation in a lot of households, especially with everyone working from home here in Australia at the moment. So glass on sink is accusatory. It's judgmental. It's irritated. The other person's not usually going to go and say, oh, okay, I'll put it in the dishwasher.
No.
Okay, it's okay, Dal. Yeah, my mistake. My bad. I've got to put it in. No, they're not going to. But if we said, hey, I can see you being a bit busy and I'm just putting the glass away. It's not as accusatory. It still might be taking that one. Just putting it away, just so you know. And you might go and rub that person's back and say, I know you're having a rough day. I'm not picking on you. Okay? And then you might say, what would be a better way we could work this? Because that does drive me nuts. Because it's okay if it drives you nuts. It drives, a lot of things drive a lot of people nuts. Leaving lights on, one of my main things. Okay? The way the dishwasher's packed and unpacked. How you cook fish.
Yeah, we all have our things. And also remembering too, like to honor that you have your things and to honor that they have their stuff.
You have to honor them. Yeah, you honor them and say, how can we get something here that works for both of us? And it could well be that the glass goes in the sink and sits there, and then the person that's so fussy about it accepts they're going to be in there and goes and puts them away. But every now and again, the person that puts the glasses there will come and clean them out in their break or whatever, become more mindful of it and whack it in the dishwasher. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's cooperation, it's called.
Yeah, it's cooperation. And I would love to talk about the key elements to help rescue couples that are in crisis.
Okay. First thing we're doing is we stabilize them. So by stabilizing, we accept the pain that our part, each other, has created. We stabilize first, right? We stabilize, we learn to speak warm, soft speak, and drop our tone and attitude of accusatory stuff. Get rid of it. That's two things. That's it. But there's a lot that goes into that. That's how they do it. Then we go from there to repair. Some of the repair overlaps with the stabilizing because if they're in crisis, they're usually at the brink of breakup or could have broken up when I see them. So we do need to stabilize wherever they are and do a rescue, work out if it's rescuable, and then we work on repair. And then after that comes recovery. Recovery is aligning and letting go of all the hurt and the pain that happened as best you can. So one of the things I say, everyone wants to talk about forgive and forget. I don't. I'll wipe all that up. You cannot forgive a lot of things, so don't even put yourself there, or forget a lot of them. What you can do is accept them. Accept and move on. So that's in a nutshell. I don't know how much more detail you'd like than that. I can go on for hours, as you can see.
I think that's beautiful. And I love that too. Like when people say forget, it's like, that's not humanly possible to forget what's been done to you. And
No.
yes, to accept what's been done and to rebuild that trust again and to take steps to move forward, I think is like
we just have to accept something happened. Someone was not thinking, inconsiderate, disrespectful, off the Richter scale of thoughtlessness and being inconsiderate. Can you accept it? That's the question. Because we can't heal if you can't. As long as it's not happening again. So that's the big reassurance word comes back in. So acceptance fits in under the resilience banner, and accepting and moving on comes under reassurance.
Yeah, that
can't happen again.
That's really important, because that's where I find, it's like, it's so hard because, we want to take steps forward and then we slip back, and then it gets really sticky and icky again, because it's like, are we moving forward or are we moving back? And then, yes, it'll happen one time, but is it happening multiple times? So it's just like how to navigate all that is why I'm sure why it's really helpful to have you there.
Because we've got the hair up on the back of our neck looking for the next signal that we're not emotionally secure. That reassurance, security. If that's not there, we can't rebuild. We have to create it.
I would love to talk about how do you help couples that have been through cheating?
Well, that's how I do that. It is nearly all couples who've been through cheating that I deal with. Mm. So we stabilise first. We hear them out. There's always reasons each partner's putting to it. The cheating partner will say, he didn't do that, or she didn't do that, and she let me down, and she wasn't there for me, or he, all the reasons. But they still cheated. Still a bad thing. And they can, if they come to me, they usually want to stay together and they want to get past it. So we stabilise by hearing them both out and managing emotions down, regulate. So I show them how to soothe. I show how the cheating partner how to reassure instead of being defensive about all the attacks, and to accept the fact there are going to be massive attacks for months, depending on how long. Some of the cheating's only 3 weeks, and some of it's only emotional, and some of it's just a few texts. Then we've got 2 to 3 years to that extreme of a full-on affair with somebody in the office. So there's those extremes. I've had an extreme where a couple came to see me when the guy had been having an affair with a woman 4 streets away, for 8 years, and had a child with her, and her 7-year-old child, his, ended up in the same class as their daughter, and of course, same dad, they look alike. And the mother picked up on the looks because she had enough other suspicious reasons. So that's the other extreme one I've had.
Oh, wow.
So we couldn't do anything with them. Okay, I'll be honest about that. I couldn't do anything with that. Nobody. I'd be amazed if anybody could. I don't know what they thought by coming here. We just couldn't. I couldn't get any ownership of anything, so it didn't go anywhere. One of the very few that don't, but the others mend because they want to. They care enough, and usually the partner that's pushed the other partner away can realise some of the stuff. Enough. Doesn't mean that's a justification for going and doing that. But they can say, yes, I wasn't intimate, or I didn't want any sex for 2 or 3 years. I didn't say hello when he came home. I didn't, if it's him, I didn't for the woman. For the guy, it will be, I worked too hard. I was far too career focused. Yeah, I didn't pay enough attention at home. I wasn't there enough. I didn't notice when she had her hair done. Obvious things women want. They're all there. Or yes, I have a temper, one way or the other. pushing away with a temper, and people go for comfort to the comfortable, comforting arms of someone else, especially if there's someone at work that's easy to access and there's a bit of a spark. So that's the story of how it goes. So how do they repair? Well, firstly, they cry a lot. They do cry an awful lot. And I encourage that. And I encourage when they're crying to write things down if they possibly can while they're crying. The emotions, get it all out. And then we get as much clean out of emotions as possible and start adjusting around without blaming. I do the best I can to remove the judgment and the blame. Can't totally, especially if someone's had a 2-year affair with the girl down the street, which has happened. Yeah, I've had the couple come where the woman down the street turned up on their doorstep at 7 o'clock, drunk, very drunk, 7 o'clock one morning, Saturday morning, knocked on the door. Kids answered it. She's absolutely off her tree, on drugs, I think, and alcohol, and calls the wife down, who's still in bed. She comes down. He's still up in bed. She comes down because she can hear it's the neighbour, and the kids say it's this girl from down the street whose kids they play with. And she came down. She said, I've been having an affair with your husband for a year. He's going to move in with me. He's moving out from you and moving in with me. There you go. So all sorts. That is still in process over a couple of years of possibly being able to repair it, but I think really just hanging until the kids are old enough and then they'll part. Because they've got boys and they adore their dad, so he's staying there. But he did have a full-on affair with the neighbour for a year.
Oh, wow. You have so many stories. I always remember all your stories. What's another crazy couple that you've helped repair from a wild story?
A wild story. Well, the wildest one is a fellow who had 2 offices here in Melbourne, one in the city and one out in a big business complex. His wife didn't know about the office in the business complex. He had 30 staff there. He also had a racehorse, bought a winery, and she only knew about the little office and the little money that he made. She didn't know he had all this other going on. And he had an affair with one of the girls in the other office for a couple of years, 18 months or something, and got caught on New Year's Eve. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's one. I've got many, 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 but I've got many, but they're all a theme that's similar. Guys, in most of mine, I don't get too many women come along that have had an affair because men are ashamed and won't bring, and the women won't come for therapy, won't come for couples work. The guys won't push them too hard because they think the woman will leave. Where it's a totally different thing when it's the guy that's betrayed. In my world over here anyway.
That's very important to name. Like, it's like, why are the stats like that? There's a reason that
there's a reason. Yeah, because because the women are much more likely to leave if they've had an affair, especially if it's because the guy's worked too hard and ignored her for a long time. And they've usually got their ducks well and truly lined up. They don't just go have random affairs like men do with someone in the office. No. It's a different demographic.
Another question I want to bring up is, if couples have lost intimacy, how do you help them with that?
Okay, that is a big part of what I do. And I have a process which I take it, I come from a play date idea to restore fun. So we start with fun, and we have to get rid of grudges because usually there's massive resentment there. So we do it's usually about 12 weeks, 12 sessions, where I help them each wake the other one up from what they've shut down on, emotionally and physically, arousal and desire-wise. So I work through fully on the desire for belonging. That's what I do. I have a process, too much to talk about on a thing like this, but that's how I do it, and it works very well. Very well.
I think that's just that remembrance that, like, you're not destined. If you are having this problem, it's not the end, and there are ways
No, it's not the end, and they do repair well. And I've got about 5 scenarios actually for play dates, and they're probably a little bit too intimate to be talking about on here. But they start with some alcohol. Some people will knock that. I get that. But some Bailey's Irish cream or something, just a little bit, and a plate of cheese and bickies and yummy stuff by the bed, 2 little ones, one each side, and just sit there, listen to some nice music and stroke each other. That's it. That's where we start. And it's amazing how fast it comes alive. It's awkward. They have to act.
Yeah.
But it comes alive over time when they do it, because then the next time we've got another little scenario. So we create love-making scenes is what I do. Love-making theatre, I call it.
It's so true. It does. It just takes that like remembrance of those beginning stages, maybe, of like how you felt love.
And when you did lovely things then. And I'm not talking about the raunchy, set the room up for all sorts. Not talking about that at all, because that's going to turn someone off usually at this stage. So no. We're talking about warming in, how we warm up and warm in and feel like we are desirable. We need to be desired.
Yes, that's huge on both ends. And I think oftentimes women think that, but men feel that a lot as well.
They do. They certainly do. How often I hear that from men that will say to me, especially if they've had affairs, or they've been caught up in the sex worker world, the hookers and the escorts. So it's like, well, I just didn't feel desired anymore. I felt like I'm on the lowest list of importance with the kids and her work and her girlfriends and her social life and her whatever. I'm down the bottom, not desired at all. So we all need to feel desirable if we want to have an intimate relationship with anybody.
Agreed. And last thing I want to talk about is money issues. And we're done it.
Oh, yeah, money. Oh, dear. Right. What would you like to know?
I guess if maybe there's a power dynamic of someone making more money, how to release that control with the money.
Yeah. So because I deal with a lot of high-performing business people, there's usually one who is making massive monies and the other one maybe not. I do have and often have some couples where I have, because that's usually the guy, but not always, but it is usually. But the female maybe. Now that dynamic does not work well. Men don't deal well with women earning way more than them in the main, unless they've agreed to be the home dad and not earn. But if they're earning at a quarter of the rate or less, it causes huge power struggles. There's a very big power imbalance over allocation of time and resources and decision-making around where it's spent. So that's the hardest one to do much with. I do something with it, and if he's earning less, there are decisions around how he looks at her, and we work through a process of waking him up to the fact that he's shutting her off and shutting her down because she's been successful. So we change the mindset around that, and that works really well. And I also help the successful female be less, be softer and more feminine around it. That's the words to say, less hard. You can get a bit hard in business. Then if it's the other dynamic where it's the men who are earning massive amounts, which is mainly my clients, and women that stay-at-home mums, or they might have something smaller on the side that they are more not necessarily needing the money for, but they just want something to satisfy them and have purpose in life. I show them how to blend their time better and prioritise better and use their good fortune to bring out their quality of life rather than go into battle over the power struggle, because it's definitely, again, a power dynamic, but it's usually caused through lack of attention. So I talk about relationship wellness, Lexi. So I'm always talking about it. And it's as important or more important than all the other wellnesses, because you haven't got the other wellnesses without it. all on it doesn't matter which dimension or graphic you look at, 7 dimensions of wellness and health or 9 or whatever. We have to put the relational one, the relationship one, in a really significant place. Because if career and money and health in the physical sense of gym, daily gym, takes over, relationship suffers, gets crushes down. So that's a money that comes from a side effect of having a lot of money, because it might be that you might have created a lot of money over a time but can't let go of this drivenness. So it's the side effect of the money.
Sometimes something else I notice is the person that makes money sees the other person as having no value.
Yes.
And yeah.
Well said. And I say to that one too, because I often get a guy saying to me, why can't she value what I do? And she says, why can't he value the support I give him? You're absolutely right. The value word comes up all the time. They don't. So it's not as hard as that sounds. You would think that would be a really difficult dynamic to shift, but it's not. It's not, because usually the intimacy's died down to nearly nothing because of the power shift, the dynamic of devaluing. We devalue and demean and belittle. We're not having much nice, comfortable desire and good sex. Not happening. So because I can usually move that into a good space, intimate-wise, that usually balances out and it stops quickly. By quickly, over about 6 months. Totally disappears. It diminishes. It what's the word I'm trying to think of? It ebbs away.
Yeah.
And once a woman feels she's matters enough and she's up enough and whatever, she'll respond warmly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, because it's like all the other money isn't the only way to measure things. And and then when someone feels that they're not worthy, then they retract their love, and it just is like this whole cycle.
Always. It is totally the unworthy thing. Yes.
Yes. Well, and that's why it's really important to get help. So please share anything you're offering right now and how people can find you.
Right. Well, I'm always offering, I have a series of, or 2 lots of videos, but let's go with this one, which is 5 live webinars I did called Relationships That Thrive. Okay. And that is all about all of this in 5 45-minute videos. They're all live webinars I gave, recorded now, of course. So they're $197. So it's very good. Now, for people who want to watch this, if they come in, and I'll send you the code. Is that right? Is that what you want me to do?
Yeah, we can put that.
Give you a code.
We can put that in the description. Yeah.
In the description, yeah. I'm happy to do that for $97.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay. They're the most watched webinars, most attended webinars I've ever done. I had like 700 on. And at the time, I think one of the things we look at is how many people stay to the end. And over 90% people stayed to the end of each webinar. Unbelievable. I was really shocked by that. So there must be something good in it, and I know there is.
I'm sure there is. Yes. And do you offer coach couples counseling?
Yeah, I do that. Yes, absolutely. Anytime. I have a button on my website to book a free discovery call. That's 45 minutes. And then we just go with going up to that. Perfect. So I can send you through all of those links.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dee.
All right. Lovely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really an honor to be here.